The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Welcome to Staring into the Abyss with a very special episode because it is my, Richard Gerlach's, birthday today.
Oh,
And
hey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I thought
you.
the birthday cake reaction in Skype was because my birthday is coming up.
Oh,
I
wow.
was thinking about that too.
It's my birthday, asshole. And
Well, happy birthday, dipshit.
That asshole over there is with us as always, Michael Patrick Hicks.
Hello.
And we have the return of Matt Brandenburg.
I know it feels like a month, but I'm back, baby.
And with a very special guest, editor Elle Turpitt.
Hi.
Hi,
Thank you for joining
welcome.
us today, Elle.
Be
I'm
ready
just
for
going to keep
craziness.
flooding our Skype with the cake reaction and get these balloons.
With all the balloons.
Yeah, so many balloons.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Hey,
man.
kid, you want a balloon?
And today's episode, we're going to be discussing A Key for Any Lock by S.H. Cooper.
There's a balloon. Sorry. No, that was a great. I am broken. I had like 2 weeks off, and now I'm like, what is happening? So many balloons.
What is all these balloons? What is life right now?
No,
Last
but
one.
I don't know why do they keep going?
I know.
Someone's
I'm
going to be
easily
spamming
amused.
I love this story, by the way. It was really good.
them. Yeah, it's a really great story.
It's very good.
And what collection can people read this story in, Al?
It's in We Are Wolves,
Oh, yes.
the one Gemma Moore and Laurel Hightower edited.
Yes.
Perfect. I'd recommend our audience pick up a copy of We Are Wolves because there's a lot of fantastic writers in it, and it's an anthology for a very worthy cause.
Yes.
Yes. And we're big fans of Gemma and Laurel, so absolutely
Yes, we
go
are.
get this.
Yes, indeed.
And before we dive into A Key for Any Lock, we like to kind of give a rundown of media we consumed over the last few weeks. I'm going to kind of make it short because there hasn't been much for me, but I'm sure Matt has a lot to say.
Oh, my Lord. So much. Get ready.
We can never shut Matt up. It's
Yeah, that's true. Surprisingly, I only watched like one movie between the last podcast and this podcast.
Let me guess.
Was it Cruella?
Yeah.
I refuse to see Cruella, but I did hear it's pretty good. It was Army of the Dead.
Ooh.
The Zack Snyder overindulge fest that is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, it was perfect.
Oh,
Uh,
I loved it.
there's a lot of discourse on happening about Army of the Dead. All I'm going to say is it's a big, stupid cartoon.
Yes.
And if you like big, stupid cartoons, you'll like the movie. If you don't like big, stupid cartoons, you're not going to like the movie.
And Dave Bautista wearing tiny glasses.
And really tight T-shirts that his pecs are almost ripping out of.
Okay, that's the first time I've been tempted by it.
Man, those T-shirts can barely contain his pecs. I will say that.
and surprisingly, the glasses can barely contain his head.
I think it's the other way around.
I just didn't understand.
Reverse
those glasses just came and went depending on his feeling, I guess.
Yeah, they were his readers.
Were they though? Because there were times when he was just wearing them and he wasn't reading anything.
Well, they could have just been for safety because of all the ammunition flying around. They were.
No, I've worn those safety glasses. They need to be a little bit bigger than those.
Couldn't defend himself from those robot zombies.
Yeah. Well, he had to look at a map. He had to start a generator.
He had to read the previous sign.
Yeah, exactly.
I listened to the 3 different covers of Viva Las Vegas.
God, sometimes it was good. It was entertaining. It was really stupid.
It was really stupid.
And there were things that they just sort of put in, and like so Final Guys, which after this episode comes out, that would have been like a month ago, but they did a dive into it and they brought up some points that I was wondering about too, and or made me more interested into rewatching it, because man, that first go around, there was stuff in there that I'm like, why are we just making drama for the sake of drama? And why clearly this guy who's a bad guy and everyone's like, it's cool, we'll let him hang around and we won't question anything about him. But I did not get the soft focus thing. It was so weird.
Yeah, Snyder does really weird focus things in all his movies. I don't know what his obsession is with that and like slow-mo shots.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah. The slow-mo does get a bit carried away, but from a photography perspective,
understatements.
I really did like the soft focus cinematography.
I mean, it's neat and it's fun when people experiment, but the places and times he used it, and like he wasn't. Usually, you would do that kind of stuff for a reason, but I did not.
You don't need reasons.
I couldn't figure out.
You just do them. You do things to do them.
It felt like somebody who was brand new at doing, like, say, iMovie, and they're like, oh, there's all these cool filters. I'm going to use them all. It's like, you don't have to use them all. You don't have to do small focus just because you want to see somebody walking around and you want to blur everything out. It's like, okay.
I mean, somebody should have run Mortal Kombat through iMovie. That might have been.
I will too.
Tig Notaro was amazing. Put them in every movie every scene was great.
One thing that's impressive about Tig is their act, like every scene.
Yes.
They had no one else to act around.
Yeah, she was completely green screen. She was CGI'd into the movie to replace another actor who had a bunch of sexual harassment complaints.
Yes. And honestly, if you didn't know, I think you wouldn't have noticed.
You wouldn't. I didn't know until after the movie was over, and I was like, oh, that was impressive.
Yeah. I knew beforehand, so I was kind of looking for it, and I think there were maybe only 1 or 2 scenes where it kind of stood out for me. And in the first instance, it was just because of the way the scene was cut. There was a lot of back and forth where it was focusing either just on Tig Notaro, and then it would cut to Dave Bautista, and then it would cut back. There was never like that 3/4 over the shoulder look to show that they're in the same scene. But other than that, yeah, I thought she was incorporated very well.
Yeah, there was like one other scene, and it's kind of like we've seen when they tried to like de-age people, and it just, you could kind of see the line around her. It was very like obvious that.
Yeah.
But
I think it was like right when they got into Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Coming into the rubble, she was kind of, there was like a weird visual indicator that you could tell it was CGI'd in.
Yeah, but not bad. Like, that wasn't a complaint.
No. I've definitely seen worse.
Exactly. I liked that, and I loved the German and the philosopher. What was the philosopher? The Zeus. Was it Zeus they called him? The philosopher guy. I love all of their interactions.
That wasn't Zeus. The philosophy major with the saw.
Yes,
I forget his name. He was badass though.
He was
Z or something.
Yes, but
I know who you're talking about. But yeah.
I did some deep dive YouTube theories, and they called him Zeus in those. So, Which I love. So I'm really hoping this stuff pays off because there is, and it's been discussed a lot. So
I'm talking about the time loop stuff.
The time loop, the robots, the UFO stuff. I dug all of that.
I'm not so sure that they were robots. I think it was part of the alien virus.
They're robots. Zack Snyder has confirmed some of the zombies were indeed robots.
Oh, okay.
There is a scene when they shoot somebody and there's sparks, and then it's clearly a robot skull underneath.
Yeah, I thought it was part of like the virus, like that blue tinge.
Yeah.
Snyder has confirmed that some of the zombies are robots.
Well, I do hope there's a sequel and we can get more of this.
There is a prequel.
Yeah, I know there's a
German
prequel.
Dude.
I want
there's going to be an anime spinoff as well.
Yes, but I want a sequel.
So
bring the whole cast back and explore this time loop.
Good, but I still want a sequel.
So those things were great. A lot of the rest of it felt very, I don't know. I kept checking the time. I will say that. It
could have been shorter. They could have cut 15 minutes off of this movie easily. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours long.
Yeah. I mean, I was a fan of it. Like, I unabashedly enjoyed this movie. I had an incredible amount of fun. And it was a hell of a lot better than the last 2 or 3 movies I've seen on HBO Max. So
fair.
I am very, very happy with this. And as soon as they release a 4K Steelbook, I am buying the fuck out of it.
It's a dumb, stupid cartoon. I had fun with it.
Yes.
If you don't like Zack Snyder's style, you're not going to like the movie. Because this movie is Snyder being more overindulging in himself than the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot because the Snyder Cut was already overindulgent.
But that was also really good, I thought.
I like the Snyder Cut better than this personally, but that was just me.
Yeah, I had more fun with this one. I liked the Snyder Cut a lot, but in terms of pure enjoyment, I liked this one better.
I will say the best scene was when the zombie tiger eats the guy's face. That was very, very nice to watch.
Valentine playing with her food was one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had in a long time. And I think in terms of casting, anytime you can get Garrett Dillahunt and Theo Rossi, you've just upped the ante a bit.
I will say the worst part is when they play Zombie by the Cranberries. It felt very on the nose and didn't need to happen.
I was fine with that, but I love that song.
That was, I couldn't do that.
Nah, it was fine.
That was just too bad. That might as well have gotten Randy Newman just to sing about what's happening.
Hey, we did get Richard Cheese singing Viva Las Vegas, though.
Yes. I think out of the 2 zombie Snyder movies, I still think Dawn of the Dead is way better.
I agree with you on that.
Yes.
Which I think helps because he didn't write it.
James Gunn wrote it.
Yes.
Well, I want another Zack Snyder of the Dead, so we get a nice little trilogy out of these. Well,
did you hear what was removed from the original script of Army of the Dead? Because they tried to make this back in 2008.
I did, and I am really glad that got sacrificed.
I am too, because that would have been awful.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention it now, but I'll just say if you're curious, Google what was cut from Army of the Dead, and you will find out.
I mean, I'll tell you what it was if you want to know.
Well, if it's too much, you can tell me after.
It was zombie rape. The zombies.
Oh God, dude.
They were going to capture and rape the women, and that would be how they would make the new alphas. They were going to impregnate the women.
Man, see that? Did you see Sucker Punch? That was he needs some.
Sucker Punch was.
And 300. Really, he's got some things.
He's got some things.
Yeah, I'm glad the more moderate heads won out, and that bit of edgelord scripting got wiped out. I do not miss that aspect.
Like that was the one thing Netflix requested. They wanted him to remove that, and they would give him a big budget, and he was like, "Yes."
Yeah, that was a good compromise. I'm glad they did not put in the concept of zombie rape.
It was all the better for it. I think.
Yeah,
I think that would have been a bit too awful.
I think Area 51 and the possibility of aliens is a much better way to go.
Yes, but Mike, what about you?
I have been slowly working my way through a NetGalley copy of Stephen Graham Jones's newest book, My Heart is a Chainsaw.
How is it so far?
I am, according to my Kindle right now, 61% of the way through. And
Thanks.
you're welcome. Well, just so you understand where I'm coming from. So I am going to recommend this. I do have positive things to say about it. But I'm also not done, and I don't have a complete understanding of where this story is going just yet. It could be, like, I don't know how much to say about this or what direction it's going to end up going, but it starts off with Jade has just graduated from high school, and she is a slasher movie obsessive, like hardcore aficionado. She watches them daily on her VCR player.
Nice.
And knows every trope, writes for her history class all of these extra credit papers that are Slasher 101 tropes to teach her history teacher about slasher movies. And I mean, she covers like fucking all of them, like even ones I've never even heard of. Like she does very deep dives into slasher lore. And the town that she's in, it's a mountain town, and a bunch of rich one percenters are developing the forest around the lake into a new development that they can live in. And it happens to be by this old camp that used to be there that was the site of a massacre some number of years ago and has earned the nickname of Camp Blood. And there's urban legends about the area, about a ghost that haunts the shore. And it starts off with these pair of, I think they were Norwegian tourists who were doing a trip across America, and they went skinny dipping in the lake and ended up being murdered. But we don't really know by what yet. And then other bodies start popping up. So Jade is 100% convinced that this is a real-life slasher movie that's playing out. And she is 100% convinced that the new girl that has moved in, one of the rich landlord's daughters, is going to be the final girl. And she takes it upon herself to try and train this girl on what she needs to become in order to survive this slasher movie massacre that is playing out in real life. And I'm kind of going back and forth between wondering how much Jade is a reliable narrator or how crazy she is. So I don't know if this is going to be like a Night of the Mannequins kind of riff on slasher, or if Jones is playing this a bit more as like a murder mystery kind of thing with an unusual heroine. But it's really, really good, and it's definitely keeping my interest because I keep going back and forth between these theories with each chapter going, well, hold on, wait a minute. I mean, there were bodies. This is something that is happening, but Jade is a big question mark. So I'm definitely invested, and this is getting a pretty good recommendation, I think, so far. Stephen Graham Jones coming off 2 Bram Stoker wins this last weekend. So, I mean, the dude knows his stuff, and if you follow him at all, you know that he knows slasher movies. And
I will interrupt and say he's just a fantastic writer.
He is. He is very much a fantastic writer. And it also kind of feels like Jade is his cipher, that he can get all of this thoughts on slasher movies out and really deliver his thesis on the ultimate slasher story. But it's very good, and I'm very, very curious to see what the next 40% of this book has in store for me.
Nice.
Awesome.
Is it a long one?
It is a long one.
Okay. Yeah, I have the paperback arc. It's like 400 something pages.
Yeah, and the chapters themselves are pretty lengthy. Like I have 4 chapters remaining and about 6 hours of reading time left.
Damn.
So my problem with it is that when I go to sit down, I'm not somebody who can just like stop in the middle of a chapter and go do other things. I have to sit down and read.
Yeah.
And trying to have time where I can, with 2 kids running around and having to work all day and all this other stuff. And it's like having that hour of free time to sit down and go through 1 chapter at a time is kind of taxing, but it's definitely worth it when I have that time to devote to it. I'm a pretty happy camper.
Heyo.
Hey. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I know Matt has a lot to talk about.
Sorry. I do. Yes, I've been off for a little bit, and so during that time I did tackle a lot of stuff. I will real quick special report StokerCon last weekend for us recording, and I did attend. It was a virtual StokerCon for anyone who wasn't aware of that, and it was really cool. There was so much happening because there was a bunch of recorded panels and readings, and then there was stuff happening live. So you kind of had to plan your schedule. They did, and it's gone now, but they did this past week kind of open up the recordings for a couple extra days for those who attend it, so they could kind of catch up, which was nice because you could have spent 24 hours trying to capture everything. There was so much content to get. And then they also had virtual bars. I think they had about 4 of them, and those were a ton of fun. You could just go in, and it was just kind of like a big Skype call. You could have, the max was like about 20 people on camera, and then there was a chat, so then you could chat the rest of them. But it was cool just to kind of sit in there and hang out and talk to everybody, and not the best replacement for live. Having Mike and I, we went to one, and I'm sure everyone's been to different cons and stuff at the time. Live things are way better, but this was probably the best way they could have done it. And a lot of great feedback I know they got, and it was a blast, ton of information. And yeah, so it is next year happening live unless something really crazy, insane happens again. And obviously we have no idea. It could just happen because we've seen that already. But
yeah. Well, there's a new variant, I guess, that's coming out.
Don't even say that.
Don't say that, Mike.
It sounds like a new CD or something. Like, oh, we got the newest variant from the UK, now India.
The greatest hits import.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
It's COVID.
This is the COVID special edition DVD coming out.
The bootleg, and you're ready.
It's going to be 2 discs of horrendous extras.
It's the Waterstones exclusive with the extra chapter that the original didn't have.
Oh man, but it was awesome. It was really fun to attend, and they did a great job. So yes, that was my special report.
Every time you say special report, my kids have been binging Octonauts, so I keep getting like this special report.
I'm not gonna sing that.
We're done with the mission. Brandenburg, report.
I attended the show. But I will go into a little deep dive. I picked up, this might be a completely shady version on Kindle through Amazon, but the
pirated Kindle copy of Halloween.
Yes, Halloween 1978, the movie novelization. Every once in a while, and we've talked about this randomly on the show, I always kind of peek around and try to find the copies of those, the Halloween novelizations, and it just so happened that there was a Kindle version. I don't know if it's still up. The cover is literally the front and back cover of the paperback, just scanned in. It's in color, but still, that's the cover.
Tattered paperback cover. Dog-eared.
and the it transferred pretty well. There are some typos, and the paragraphs can be kind of wonky. It's not nearly as bad as some of the other stuff we've talked about in the past. Killer flies. So you don't really notice it, and it doesn't take you out of the story. But I read it. It's I think it was I'm trying to remember because I know it's the same name. It's either Curtis Richards or Richard Curtis. They wrote this novelization, and they have some interesting opinions on things. You know, it follows the basic plot of the movie. They did add in quite a bit at the beginning. They have this whole tie into Samhain and how this village way back in the day, and there was this guy that had a goofy arm, and nobody liked him, but he loved the chieftain's daughter, and he surprised her by the river one day and was like, "I love you, I want to marry you," and she freaked out. And she ended up dating, getting married to the toughest villager, and they're dancing, and our main character, our boy with the weird arm, decides to kill them. So then everybody tackles him, they chop off his head, and they curse him, and they say he is doomed to repeat this thing every, I don't know, couple of years or something like that. And that is what is in Michael Myers, is he somehow has this curse to go around and kill people, and he hears voices as a little kid. So we jump into him as a little kid, and he's like talking to himself, and the person is telling him, "Hey, you need to go kill your sister because she looks sort of like the person I loved a million years ago." And he does. And then it goes into a little bit of a dive of his time in the asylum with Dr. Loomis, and how all these strange things were happening, and how he basically ruled the asylum, but nobody could say it was him doing these things. And then it jumps into now, and that follows the basic plot. Then it kind of catches up, kind of like the Rob Zombie Halloween, where we get a lot of time as a little kid and then we get adult. Same concept, just not as sweary and rednecky as Zombie's movie. But it's interesting, the weird commentaries and opinions either come in about small Midwest towns, and just how they, I don't, his opinion is that they're all going away and they all look the same, and all just, kind of that stuff. So I couldn't really quite tell if he liked small towns and he was mad about them going away, or if he thought small towns were stupid. But either way, he put those opinions in there. His other opinions are very much tied to women and sexuality. We get a very detailed description of the sister as she's brushing her hair and getting ready to sleep with her boyfriend, and just a lot of those details. And he spends a lot of time on the female body descriptions, and it was kind of like, dude, this is a little weird. Even in the Halloween movie, they didn't spend a ton of camera time on the sister in the beginning when she's combing her hair right before he stabs her, or even all of Laurie's friends. Like, you get the idea that they're, teens and they are exploring their sexuality, but you don't spend as much time as this author did in the novel. And it was just a little weird to read and be like, dude, why are you lingering pages on these descriptions? So that was something that was just kind of, after a while, I kind of just started flipping through those pages. But it was interesting to read. And then we can come back around, because I did read Halloween 3 as well.
And Elle, what about you?
I'm really bad at watching films. We've only just watched Men in Black International.
Oh, nice.
I think that was the last weekend we watched that. But I've just watched the Son of Sam documentary on Netflix.
Oh, how was that
the
one?
True crime one. It was good. It was stretched out a lot. Like the Hotel Eliza Lamb one as well. It just went on a bit too long. But yeah, it was, I think it took me 3 attempts to get through the last episode. It's kind of less about David Berkowitz and more about Maury Terry, the journalist who was investigating all the links with cults and stuff like that. So from that point of view, that was actually quite interesting and a little bit eerie, because they made some really good links between the Process group, the Son of Sam killings, Charles Manson and all them. And it was one of those things, on the face of it, you're like, this just sounds crazy. And you're going into it, and the more they get into it, it was just like, actually. But yeah, it was interesting. And there was a lot of stuff I didn't know about it and stuff, and then around the time.
Good old David Berkowitz.
Yeah.
Yeah,
who very much was in every interview he did with Maury Terry. Maury Terry's like, would you say that this happened? And he's like, yeah, sure. Why not?
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's quite the character. Well, Son of Sam was something I read a lot about a few years ago. It's an interesting case.
Did you ever watch that movie?
The movie? No.
The Spike Lee movie?
I did not see the Spike Lee movie.
It was interesting. It was good. They captured that.
Is it worth watching?
Maybe they captured the time really well, and it's not really about him as much, but the interesting thing that they did, and I don't know, it kind of took me out of it, is he does talk to his dog, and his dog does talk back, and like the mouth moves on the dog. It's not like just the dog looking at him and then like him hearing the voice. No, the dog's mouth like moves and talks, and it was kind of like, oh, this is weird.
The one thing I will say about the documentary as well is they had a lot of crime scene photos and stuff, and I'm watching it like, oh, okay, yeah. And then they showed there was dogs being mutilated at the time.
Oh, jeez.
And they showed that, and I was like, I can't look at that. I can look at a human dead body, but dogs, no.
Yeah.
The weird thing they brought up as well is his neighbor was Sam, and he had a dog.
Huh.
And obviously he kept talking about Sam's dog and all these links with dogs and stuff like that, and the letters that were like, he beats me, I am the son of Sam. And the guy had 2 sons.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, all that aspect was a bit like, what the hell was actually happening?
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, besides murdering people, David Berkowitz had a lot of problems, like, beyond that too. So
yeah.
I don't know, I think Son of Sam is an interesting case to look at, and it's a big thing for like the area it took place in as well. Like, I don't know, I feel it's a big monumental piece of true crime. And
yeah, I mean, and that was part of
culture.
The movie, which was cool. They did capture New York at that time, and the blackouts and the heat, and just, I don't want to say mob mentality, but the kind, like the idea of thinking somebody, because like they have a character, Adrian Brody, in it, who's kind of like, he becomes this really big like punk guy, and everyone thinks it's him because he's kind of he becomes this kind of outsider. That concept was interesting. But anyway, yeah. That was a good part of the movie. So
I might check it out. I don't have much more besides I finally started reading Shapes of Night by Mary San Giovanni.
Nice.
And this book is really intense. Like, Mary's stuff can be intense, but this book caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
Like, some really fucked up shit happens in this book from the beginning.
Is this the new Nightstorm or a Thunderstorm one?
Yes, it's the new Thunderstorm one.
Okay.
It's about this teacher who has what he calls snapshots, and there are things that have yet to happen, but every time he has snapshots, they come true. And he sees a former student of his being mutilated.
Oh, jeez.
So he goes to like find the former student to warn him about this like event that's happening. And it turns out there are these aliens called the Shapes, and they're working their way into our reality and distorting and manipulating our reality to fit their shapes. And this includes reviving dead bodies and using them kind of like puppets.
Oh, creepy.
And like trying to just remake our reality in their image.
Well, that's crazy.
And after like the teacher finds a former student, they make it home. They both go to sleep. The next day, they find themselves in a time loop, and they wake up from the same morning they woke up the previous day. Only they still remember the night before, and now they're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on and how they can stop reality from like being remade. So it becomes like a time loop type story as well.
That sounds pretty trippy.
So I'm only like 50 pages in, so I'll have a full report when I finish, but so far I'm enjoying it. If anyone else has anything they want to add in their go around, you can feel free to.
Yes, I do.
Halloween 3.
Halloween 3. I found that as a paperback at very decent price.
I was going to say, how much did that cost? Because I've seen like $800 retail sites for that one.
No, only $38.
Oh, wow.
It is a lot for a book, but yeah, when you compare it to $800, it's like a drop in the bucket. So,
I mean, you're a big Halloween fan too, so it's perfect for you.
I was, and it's in great shape. I mean, it's an old paperback, so it's yellowed pages and everything, but the cover is on. There's no missing pages, no dog ears, no cracks or anything. So I was extremely happy to find that.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. So I read it because, I have to read it. And this one is Dennis Etchison writing, as I would have to look it up, but it's Dennis Etchison, and he made this, and I love the movie, but it's, how it opinions on that one vary, and but it's a horror movie. It's a goofy movie about masks and Irish joke maker and stealing of the Stonehenge. So it's not like a highbrow kind of movie, but man, Dennis Etchison makes it beautiful. His descriptions and his kind of inner monologue for Dr. Chalice, which was Tom Atkins in the movie, is just amazing. Like, I kind of want to go back and read it just to kind of steal some of what he does, because it's just, and we've covered one of his stories before. I don't know if that ever actually came out, but we have. So,
that was a lost episode.
Yes. So but if anyone has read him, you kind of know he's very lyrical, and he spends a lot of time on scenery and description, and he does that here to great effect. If you didn't know that was a movie novelization, you would just be like, man, this is it. And I have nothing wrong with movie novelizations, but this one feels just like it could be a regular novel, had no tie to a movie, and you would absolutely love it. There are some questionable parts that he kind of had to steal from the plot. I mean, like, they don't explain how they steal one of the a part of Stonehenge. They just kind of go, well, that was a crazy. And if you remember that from the movie, it's very much just described as like, well, that's a crazy story, and then they never tell you why or how. Same thing here. You don't get that detail, so like you kind of have to just go with that, and then just some of the other stuff in it where it's goofiness that is definitely from the script, but everything else, he just deep dives into this Dr. Chalice and like his divorce and his kids, and like he sets up this awesome thing just about the concept of machinery taking over humans, and how like we don't think anymore. And this was written in 83, I think, and so taking those concepts at that time and how we're letting computers do everything for us, and we're not even human anymore because we do all of that, which again, if you've seen the movie, you know that's kind of where it's all going. So yeah, it's just this amazing kind of dive into that character and how he does things. It follows the movie really close, except kind of the beginning. He switches some scenes around because you're solely focused on Tom Atkins' character, where in the movie you see kind of the beginning of what's happening, and you kind of the story kind of jumps around a little bit. In the book, it does not. It's solely focused on him and everything that's happening. One thing about it that I was kind of like bummed, and going back to just wishing this was a novel, is it feels like he kind of had to wrap it up pretty quick, just like in the movie. So like you're kind of this slow going on everything and this kind of nice even pace, and then it just not even ramps up. It just like is like a straight up to action and everything happening, and then the book just ends where you feel like if they would have given him time, he could have like brought us up there. I mean, again, having read some of his stuff, we know he kind of likes that very slow build. So like they must have just been like, this needs to be 200 pages. that's the max. And so he kind of like took his time and then probably realized at page 175 that he needs to get all the the climax in there. And so he just like, up here it all goes. But it's really cool. I loved it. If you can find it, definitely, and not for $800, get it. I really wish somebody would be able to get the rights to this and republish it, or somehow get a Kindle version out, because it needs to be read more. It was really cool. So yes, that one is my, and I guess I did real quick, since we talked about Mary Sangiovanni, I'll jump to the other side. I did read Brian Keene's The Damned Highway, which was fun. Definitely follows a lot of Hunter S. Thompson stuff. It's a little wacky, a little strange at parts, which is supposed to be, but kind of to the point where you're like, I get a lot of this. They stuck a little too deep to Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail, which is fine, but like, especially now, I'm like, I don't need that many details on Nixon and and J. Edgar Hoover and all that stuff. It played well again, Campaign Trail 72, like at that time, but in hindsight now, you're like, make the story a little modern, and then it would have been better. But anyway, regardless, that's it for me.
All right.
Done.
I think it's time for us to move into the S.H. Cooper story.
Yes.
Elle, I know you and I talked a lot about what story to do, and you landed on this S.H. Cooper story, which is fantastic. I loved it. But why this story?
I think because I read We Are Wolves quite a while ago, and it's obviously a lot of the stories in the anthology are powerful in themselves. A lot centre around the culture, the treatment of women on different levels. This one just, I mean, I'm a big fan of S.H. Cooper anyway. She's one of my best friends as well. But this one, the way she took that saying, that specific thing that I think most women have probably heard at some point, and did that with it. Yeah, it stuck in my head for a long time, especially with all the sort of recent stuff that's been going on, especially in the UK. That kind of brought it back to mind, and I think that's when I spoke to you, Rich, about doing it.
Yeah. This is a really powerful story. Like, I'm pretty sure all the stories of Werewolves are powerful. I haven't, unfortunately, read that anthology yet, but this story, like, is really, really powerful.
What's crazy, or maybe not crazy, but what's tough is especially like the first half, reading it feels like you're just reading like a nonfiction or an article.
Yeah.
Which is just sad, because it's a fiction story, but it's sad when you're reading all this and you're like, this is I could have read this in a news article today. So I guess we should just real cover the story.
It's a pretty easy story to cover.
Yes.
It's only on the Kindle 8 pages, 8 screens long. And Cooper does a fantastic job with getting the ball rolling right from the very beginning. And it is a story about a woman who has been raped. And she did everything she was supposed to. She went to the police. They had charges pressed. They went to court. And the man still got off because, much like Brock Turner, he's just a special young white man with his whole future ahead of him.
Yeah.
Mike, I thought you mean mediocre white man, right?
Yes. By special, I mean mediocre. And he gets away with his crime. And she sets out to exact revenge against him based on one of his favorite sayings, which is that which
is just gross, by the way.
Yeah. One of the pieces of evidence that they introduced against this man during the trial was one of his social media posts. And quoting from the story, they flashed up on a projector his smiling picture beside his philosophizing. Somebody asked why only women can be sluts. It's 'cause a lock that opens for any key is useless, but a key that opens any lock, priceless.
Yeah. The dude's piece of shit.
Yeah. So he had drugged her, got her really drunk, and then raped her at a party. She exacts revenge in the end by basically going undercover. She gets a wig and gussies herself up so that he cannot recognize who she is. And she turns the tables on him. She gets him completely plastered, gets him out of the bar, and takes him to an old abandoned farmhouse she's found and chains him up in there and puts a little contraption on him that requires a particular type of key to unlock. And if he uses this key to free himself, he gets snipped.
Just a bit.
So he can either lose particular parts of his anatomy or he can hang there and die. The choice is his.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is the most fitting end for that asshole.
Yeah. And we're told throughout the story, you know, she is a woman that has always heard her entire life that she's a smart girl, that she is really intelligent, she can do whatever she puts her mind to, until the night of her rape, when all of a sudden she's told that she should have known better.
Yeah.
Why did you do this? Why did you dress that way? Why did you drink so much? Why were you alone with him? Which, I mean, Christ, we know the victim's story by heart. Every fucking story that comes out of this, it all has the same kind of commentary. Right down to, like, Elle, you were mentioning the recent case in the UK where the question was, well, why was this woman walking alone at night?
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be the question to ask.
Yeah, and that's a question that's always placed upon the victim. No one ever asks the rapist, well, how come you're a raping piece of shit? How come you're making these awful choices? Why are you hurting these women? That no one ever asks that. They get into the front of a judge, and now we're told about, you know, Brock Turner, like he was this special athlete. He was the swim star. He's just a young boy who's got his whole life ahead of him. Well,
he just made one little mistake.
Yeah, that is going to psychologically tar this woman for the rest of her life. But, well, I guess she shouldn't have just dressed that way.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Cooper takes this premise and gives us the bit of revenge and justice that we desire, that we wish there could be more of in real life.
I will say, this is going to be a spoiler, but I just love the end of the story, like, after she puts the device on him, and it's like, why was I doing this to him? His question made me stop walking, stop wondering. I half turned, lips pulled back into a gallows smile. Because I'm a smart girl, I knew no one else would.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
Love
a
it.
perfect callback to the beginning. You know, the story arc comes full circle where, like, one of the first lines is we're told that she's a smart girl.
Well, and I like that they set up that she's like an engineering student, and she studied mechanical engineering. She did all these science fairs. That payoff at the end just is even more that she took her smart girl abilities and used them to exact revenge, which was awesome. Which was like an awesome touch.
Yeah, and Cooper is I mean, I've read so many of her short stories by this point. She's excellent at not wasting a single word.
Yes.
Every little thing is set up and told to you in that first bit. You know, the smart girl, the aspect of victim blaming, rape culture, and like you said, the mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
It's all setting everything up really well. What I find interesting as well is, she disguises herself, but you can't completely change how you look. But I think even if she hadn't disguised herself, he probably wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, no, we definitely do see some of that where she's worried that he's going to recognize her eyes, but his eyes never make it that far up her body.
Yeah.
So she's, God, yeah. If I had any wish, it was just that we just had that little smidge longer so we could get the scene at the end where it's like, okay, what are you going to do, buddy?
Yeah.
it's interesting because you bring up, Mike, you had brought up the guy being like, oh, he made one little mistake, or, he's a special person. I like in this, because I'm just flipping through it now too, is she doesn't even, we don't even see that. All we see is his quote, and then that's the jury finding him not guilty because he could just afford the better mouthpieces, which I like that, because that takes away the fact that it doesn't matter if they're special or they have their future ahead of them. They're just these asshole people, and they're going to do asshole things. And it's almost like I don't want to say blank canvas, but you could fit anybody in here, and it doesn't matter if they're the star of the swim team or they're a lawyer that's gonna make $1 million and say, it's the fact of the matter is they did this terrible thing and they can get away with it.
Yeah. They can buy their justice. They can buy their freedom.
I thought that was great. It does a really good job too of capturing what happens after the fact that she was getting calls and texts and all these terrible things. And it's just so sad that it's just so true and terrible. And these people that, I don't know, just worship other people and will defend them. It's just crazy because there's not even a comment and again, I think it's great because it's true. There's not a comment that he's calling her or he's sending texts and threatening. It's just this faceless mob of idiots who are will attack. And we've seen this countless times, not even for this story, but we see it for poor school shooting parents. Those people are this terrible mob just attacks. And I like that she added it in there. Just kind of capture the fact that people are terrible.
Yeah, they are. Especially with the online community.
Yeah, and people go out of their way to defend people that excuse me, on Twitter at the end, you see it all the time where someone will say, this is what's happened. This guy or some guy will tweet, oh, this woman has offended me because she stood up against me, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And guys will be like, oh, you're a good guy. You're a really good guy. And it's but the only people who are telling you that are white men. Yeah. They're your so-called friends who don't actually know you.
Yeah.
And you just see it constantly. And if you turn around and say, well, actually, this person did this to me, you're the one then being attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's crazy thing where we just worship certain people and we'll do whatever to make them feel good.
And I mean, we see that a lot here in the U.S. with expecting cops to be held accountable for their crimes.
Yeah. That's not just a U.S. thing.
No, not at all. I mean, if we look at the U.K. with the recent Sarah Everard case where she was abducted and raped and murdered by a cop, you speak out against that and well, when is the cop going to be held accountable? It's well, why are you against the police?
Yeah. We don't know that she was assaulted yet. And also he's been accused.
Oh, allegedly.
Yeah.
The police officer.
Yeah, we don't want to get sued, Mike.
Yeah.
But I mean, what we did then see was women having vigils and women saying this isn't on, and then getting attacked by the police.
Yeah.
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 And then they want to ask you, well, why are you anti-cop? It's motherfucker, we're anti-rapist murdering assholes.
Yeah. And why don't you want cops at Pride?
Yeah.
Well, they can go, just not in uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're welcome to march alongside, but
just
you don't need them there with their riot tanks and riot gear and
making lists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking pictures.
Flashing their little swastika tattoos at everybody.
Yeah.
There's a great quote in here, probably about not even halfway through, but about the time heals all wounds. She puts time heals all wounds, it said, but I find that's more true if you weren't the one cut in the first place.
That was a brilliant line.
Is perfect because it's so true. It's so easy outside of it, or to not have been affected and be like, oh, just give it time, you'll feel better. And it's like, no, you won't. Especially when like she captures too the fact that when she went in to report, the rape kit thing is still very intrusive, and she captures it here about poking and prodding. And so it's like, it's just all in her face all the time. She's not going to heal from this.
Oh, yeah, no, she's been violated multiple times over.
Yeah.
From this individual to the institution to society itself. And it's like, no, time's not really going to heal anything here. If anything, you've got to live with this knowledge that everyone was against you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the idea, another thing we always see online as well, I think, was people will, how are you lying? You're lying. Women will lie all the time, or all this. And it's like, the percentage of women who make false accusations is unbelievably low. And even then, like 90% of false accusations aren't malicious. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But there's, I only came across it recently, but there's a proverb that's African. I couldn't find any other details about where exactly it's from, but it's the axe forgets, the tree remembers.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think similarly, that's something that it captures that really well. The idea that, she's been violated over and over. All he has to do is walk into court, go, I didn't do it, and gets off.
Yeah. Wears a nice suit, flash the pearly whites, and we're done.
Yeah, and he can move on with his life, whereas someone who's been in that situation can't. And it will affect, it can affect someone for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And they talk about that too, where parents are like, well, you should probably come home. And she's like, I wasn't the one that did anything wrong. Why should I be the one that has to leave?
Yeah.
But so and then I know we keep staying in the beginning. We'll get to the end part too. But I think the other thing that kind of came up in this, and that comes up a lot, is they had, found she had, boyfriends. I'm trying to think how they word it, but they had basically pictures or social media stuff about her being with other boys and other men. And that's always like the way they do it, where again, it's the focus is on her, and it's like, oh, well, because she dated a couple other people, then she deserved it. This was fine. That's what she does. And again, he has this quote, this exact quote, and they're like, well, he's okay. Just because he sleeps around a lot, that's all right. It's her that's sleeping around that's the bad thing. Yeah,
it's that double standard that men can be promiscuous, but women can't for whatever reason, or the court defense that, well, you can't rape someone who's not a virgin. She's already had sex. They're standing by the GOP proverb of some women rape so easy. And that's their whole defense. And the court is just like, yep, good enough.
I hate that so much.
And there's been cases as well where the guy has got off because they've exchanged flirty texts beforehand.
Right.
Jeez.
And it's just, well, that doesn't matter, it could be a boyfriend, it could be someone who you live with,
it could be a husband.
Yeah, exactly. It's, that's not, it's messed up. And it's a lot of like people, I have to get a written form of consent before I do anything with a girl. It's like, if that's your attitude, just stay away from women, mate.
Yeah.
You don't want to get accused.
Those are the same types of people who are like, why won't women date me? I'm such a nice guy. When if you're really a nice guy, you wouldn't be doing this for something in return.
Yeah.
You'd be just being nice for the sake of being nice.
Right.
And then after all their complaining, they hop on the incel 4chan board.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, they're the same people who are like, I'm trying, why can't I even say those words anymore? It's like everyone's taking the fun out of it. Everyone's canceling me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Learn better words, I guess. Get a better vocabulary. I don't know.
Get a hobby.
Oh, man.
You could just try not being an asshole.
Yeah, pretty simple.
And it's amazing. Like, even if like someone tweets online to say, do you know what, asking for consent is really sexy, the amount of men will get offended by that. And it's like, mate, you're getting free advice.
Yes. So she does move back home, and she starts like going on drives, just, away from everything, because she doesn't want to be the lock anymore. And she comes across an old farmhouse, which is this neat old... I love the description of it because it's absolutely perfect, and it fits exactly everything that we're talking about. It's like this dilapidated, forgotten house. It might have been red at one time, but now it's cracked and ruined and just it's forgotten, which is exactly, it works for what we're discussing. And then I love in the back, she finds the cow graveyard, which I've been to one of those before. And that's where she gets a plan.
You have some of the most random experiences, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird to I don't want to say stumble upon, but a extended family who they own farms, and if you go way in the back, you can find all the skeletons back there, and it's really creepy to discover.
Yeah, I was going to say, this farmhouse is a heck of a metaphor, but I really want to know more about your cowboy pal. Did you know it was back there? Had somebody told you, or did you just randomly find it?
I didn't know about it, but we were out driving around on the land, and it was my nephew who was like, "Oh, you gotta come back here and check this out." And that's, you find kind of in the corner of the lot, just like skeletons and bones everywhere. Yeah. And so, I mean, and yeah, this description's right, because it's just back there, grass is growing through it, and it's mostly just bones. It's not like full skeletons of a cow or anything like that, but you do find a couple of the cow skulls, which are really creepy.
So does like the farmer take them there, or do cows?
No, it's not like an elephant graveyard where they just
okay,
go.
because I know the elephants will migrate. They'll walk to like this communal graveyard. I wasn't sure if cows.
Think it's that. I don't know that much about it, so I can't tell you that part. Like if the farmer takes them back there for a certain reason. Okay. And there might be a listener who happens to know what that is, and please let us know more. I just know that was back there, and there was a lot of bones.
Wow, that's a pretty gnarly discovery.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it's something to see. It's something to be like, whoa, this is here and this exists.
You're sure it was all cows? All cows.
I didn't see. I mean, as much as I can, they were pretty big ribs. I don't think they were human ribs.
Okay. You didn't see any smaller bones in there.
And I looked, but no. You can't just come across bones and not want to
investigate.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was captured quite well. And that's where I guess that's where she gets the plan to do what she's going to do, which is very genius. And I love it. And yes, if like you said, it kind of near the beginning, Mike, if we could have gotten a few more pages. I mean, and this is a great story, so I'm not complaining at all.
That was definitely not a slight. It was just my gory goblin brain wanting to see this guy's dick get chopped off.
Yes, or even just like how, like the process, because we get the process. She's going to all these, going all around to pick up what she needs, so it's not being tracked.
Yeah. And she's really smart about this too. Yeah. Like she takes her time. She doesn't get this idea of revenge and then jump right in with both feet. She spreads this out over time and makes sure she's doing cash only purchases from different towns and stores. And
she's a smart girl.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, which is just great. And then, yeah, she just the whole seduction, and I mean, it's exactly what we were saying. He probably would have no idea, wouldn't even cared if it was the same person. He was just been like, oh, cool, that's you're back, you liked it, I'm gonna take you for more. But she gets him, which is quite amazing. And, and it's funny because he gets so drunk that he just like passes out in the seat, and he kind of mumbles about driving the car, and she's just like, whatever. And then even when they get to the farmhouse, she's like, well, he's a lot bigger and it's a little bit harder, but he wakes up enough to move. It's like, this dude is such an idiot asshole that he's like, oh, it's still happening.
I know, right? She's chaining him up and stripping him down. He's like, oh yeah, here we go.
Oh my God.
Oh,
and
man.
then yes, she like has this like awesome saw giant lock trap that's just so
It was
messed up.
perfect.
It was absolutely perfect.
It was perfect.
It's really like satisfying.
Yeah.
Just as she walks away, it's just like, yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Have you, because I think like they kind of deal with similar themes in completely different ways, but have you read Villemy's The Banquet?
Yes.
Yes, love that little story.
Thinking about that one.
I was incredibly lucky. She asked me to edit it, and when I was doing it, I was just like, this is amazing.
She asked me to beta read it, and my feedbacks for her were like, this is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that one. That was another one where the gore hound in me was like, man, we really need more blood here.
Which is surprising for Vietnamese, because she usually kind of goes a bit further.
Yeah. It's like, this pair needs way more description and gore than...
I want to see them suffer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and we get a little bit that here. Not the actual action, but I love the begin, like, as he kind of is coming to, and she like talks about his like, you see the realization on his face and everything that he kind of goes through, the like swearing and pleading and threatening. I thought that was a good touch, just to be like, none of that phases me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a good touch.
It was very well done. There's just something for me that's supremely satisfying about some rapist trash getting everything they deserve and more in the goriest, most violent ways possible.
Yes.
So that's the question. What do you think he did? Do you think he stayed and died, or do you think he went in?
I think he would have been desperate enough to try and escape eventually, but then weak enough that he just kind of gets half stuck in it.
Did we? I don't know if we described. Well, I guess we sort of did. She makes like a giant lock, and she talks about the hungry gears and the hole that's just perfect size for his key.
I kind of wanted to know more of the mechanics of this lock.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he uses the key, it's going to cut his dick off, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, personally speaking, how you would get aroused in that kind of situation.
What was that, Wormwood? Yeah, when we were reading that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be a lot of performance anxiety.
Had you all heard that phrase before?
I have not.
The lock and key? No, I hadn't.
Yeah, that's quite funny because I know I've definitely heard it a few times.
It sounds like something somebody like that guy would say. I was just like, oh, dude.
Yeah, I can definitely see some frat boy asshole having this as their personal motto.
Yeah.
Yeah, or one of those things that some guys will say, quote, ironically, unquote.
I had never heard of that before, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what he's saying, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It is refreshing to see women creatives working to reclaim the rape revenge genre of horror.
Yes.
Between Cooper's story, Villemy's fantastic The Banquet. Normally these are all male creatives that are writing these stories. We've got like Wes Craven's what was it, The Last House on the Left?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so many
Isn't
others.
that a remake as well, though?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I need to watch both of them. I haven't seen either of them.
Yeah.
That original one is rough.
Oh, it's really rough.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I made it maybe a part of the way, like first quarter, and I said I need to turn this off. So.
There's a recent kind of rape revenge movie that was really good. Single White Female was really, really good.
The one that I was thinking of was the movie. It's cleverly titled just Revenge.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
That's the one. Yeah.
It was directed by Coralie Fargeat, which I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. It's a French movie that follows into the rape revenge mold, but directed by a woman, I believe. I think it was written by a woman as well.
Yeah, I'd have to look that.
Yeah, because it's something that like I've argued about before. I don't understand why certain men have this obsession with writing rape revenge. Like, I know some of them will see it as like, oh, well, it's empowering, but it's not, because it's too often sort of the revenge aspect is glamorized, and it's just all like, you know, they chuck it in as a backstory for a character for a female character.
Yeah.
And it's just weird that there's that kind of slight obsession with stuff like that. Like you were saying with Zack Snyder earlier.
Yeah. It's like, and that's I was thinking that too, where you have those rape revenge ones where it's probably like 75% of the rape part of it, and then 25% of the revenge part, where
and it feels just gross and voyeuristic.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there is a massive sort of pushback with women writing it now, and I think it's so much more powerful than the sort of male penned versions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, obviously it's not just women who are victims, but it does seem to be predominantly men who will write women being victims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it's coming from a woman's pen, there is more of an empowerment to it, where these women are taking the action into their own hands. This is something that motivates them, but it's not the whole story. You know, we're very much focused on the revenge aspects and societal issues and justice and trying to reclaim their personhood through this.
Yeah.
I was, especially like with this story too, where we know exactly what happened, and she didn't need to go into any detail. She didn't even need to show it. But I mean, because it's a rape revenge story, but we didn't need to see it. All we needed to see was everything that happened afterwards, and it's extremely effective.
We just need to know the event that happened, and then our focus is the aftermath. We know she's been wronged. We don't need to see it because we just know it happened.
Yeah.
And it becomes more effective and a lot less voyeuristic in that sense.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for that less is more approach. We don't have to go into these assaults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we get enough background information in this story and in Villemey's story that we know exactly what has happened, but we don't need to see it.
Yeah. And even in like, not to be like, male example, but even in like, for Mike and I, we became friends reading The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum, which is the worst way to become bonded with somebody, I think. And there's parts
a friendship
in that
formed
book,
in tears.
There's parts in that book where even he knows, like, not to go. Like, even he knows when to stop.
Oh yeah, there's that one chapter that's like one sentence.
There's like one chapter that he gives you enough to know what happened without telling you exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And it's all you need to know for that, and it's all the better for it. Mm-hmm. And I think if he were to go into detail in that chapter, it would take away some of what makes that book work.
Especially knowing how heinous the real life events that book was based on. I mean, just knowing that Ketchum pulled his punches and that was still that devastating.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I couldn't even imagine if he had gone into full-on details and described everything and even hewed closer to what happened. That was already such an emotionally turbulent book. I don't know how you would do more and not completely reject everyone who's reading it.
Yeah.
And I like, too, that even the end, and Mike, I know you want it more, but I think she does a good job to capturing just, this part of it and letting us at the end kind of imagine the horribleness that the rightfully horrible punishment that's happening. Let that kind of simmer in our heads.
Yeah, I mean that's just the minor splatter.
I know.
That spectacle.
I keep bugging you on that. But you're right. But I like that
too. If it were just a movie, you know, where they could do like that fade to black and then like snick.
Yeah.
And then roll credits.
Yes. But I think that was an awesome idea to end it that way. Because, again, when we talk about like the rape revenge movies too, even that end revenge part of it, they usually go pretty hardcore. But here, I think it works even better kind of ending that with that concept and that line of being a good girl, because then you're just like, oh, this is gonna happen, and she knocked it out of the park because she did the right thing.
Yeah. I certainly have no complaints.
Well, I want to say thank you for choosing this story for us to read. It was my first story by Cooper, and I need to read more.
Same. And I have one of her other books, which I haven't gotten to yet. But
everything from the Festering ones onward, I've edited, which has been really awesome. There's not short stories in anthologies like that, but like her collection of All That's Fair, and her new one coming out is Inheriting Her Ghosts, which is like gothic. It's really, really good.
Awesome. I'll have to check those out very soon, because this story was like just really fantastically written, and I loved it. Despite the horrible subject matter, I loved it.
Yeah, it's perfectly balanced. It's very well written. It's probably too realistic. It's one of those stories that, every single bit of it, like, even if I hope that she hasn't had a personal experience that she's drawing upon, but it is one of those that even if you haven't, you still can feel the truth of it, just because of all of the media and news reports that play out exactly fucking like the opening of this book.
Yeah. And it's like going back to what you said earlier about more women writing it. It's great seeing anthologies like We Are Wolves coming out. Stuff that even the very theme of it gives women that chance for that. To talk about stuff like that. Yes. And this is the first time I've been able to mention it publicly because of when the podcast is going to come out. I'm actually going to be editing an anthology with Sarah and Olivia White that's going to be all women, with the theme Woman Built by Man.
Oh, perfect.
That sounds amazing.
So cool. We're opening submissions for that in July and then running until September.
Perfect. This will be landing right around that time then.
We've got half invites to it, and then the other half are going to be open subs. So yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
That's great.
I'll be looking forward to that one. Thank you for the announcement, Elle. And also, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
So I'm on Twitter at Elle Turpitt, which is TURP for Peter ITT, because sometimes people think it's Turpitt. And then my editing website, I guess, elleturpittediting.com.
And make sure to get Elle Turpitt as your editor, because she is fantastic. We have someone here who will agree with this.
I do agree with that. It's super. It was yes. You did amazing, and it was awesome. And I don't know, at the time it was perfect because I got it probably a day after I sent it to you. If you're busy, for listeners that might use you, I don't want to be like, oh, she'll get it to you in 12 hours, and if you get it, so
it depends. But I mean,
it was only 170,000 words. Why?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Usually for short stories, I try and turn them around. It depends when they get sent to me as well. If they get sent to me on a Friday, it's likely you'll have it back by, it depends on if I'm doing anything that weekend, you'll probably get it back by the end of the weekend if it's a short story.
Yeah. But yeah, so yes, very useful line edits, reader edits. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
And this, again, thank you for choosing the story because it was really fantastic, and I'm happy we got to have you on today.
Yeah, that has been a really good chat, even if it's it's not the lightest thing to talk about, but I think I knew I wanted to do it because I've listened to the podcast and I knew you guys would be like good to talk to about it.
Yeah, I mean, we try to add levity when we can, especially in serious topics, but we treat the topic with, we hope, enough seriousness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, hopefully we didn't prove you wrong over the course of this.
Not at all.
Like, this was a big
It is weird
mistake.
though, because there's moments when I'm like, I almost forget to speak because I'm like, I'm just listening to the podcast.
It's funny because like I'll re-listen to our shows and I'll do kind of the opposite where I'm ready to answer and I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm listening, I'm not recording right now.
I do the same thing, Matt. So
I get those parts where like, God, I wish I would have said this.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I had that same thing, Mike, where like after we finished recording, I was like, there's so much else I could have said.
Yeah. I've got this great punchline 6 months later.
But Matt, where can the listeners get in touch with you?
I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM.
And Mike?
You can find me on Twitter at MikeH5856 or head over to my website, michaelpatrickhicks.com, and check out some books.
And I'm realizing this just now, but I should have made an announcement at the beginning of this podcast, and this is what I mean by I think of things too late. My anthology came out on Friday.
Yay!
My debut. I'm finally published. Well,
more balloons for you.
To be fair, this is technically my second publication. My first is actually under Scott Kemper, so I don't count it.
Okay. What was that one?
But it's under the 30.
Oh, okay.
The 30-person anthology thing that got put together. 30? Yeah, I have a chapter in that. So I don't count that. But this is technically my first publication under my name, and I am in the anthology Dark Words, Stories of Urban Legends and Folklore, edited by Jamie and Matt Wilderson. It includes an introduction by Brian Keene and has some great authors such as Simon Paul Wilson and Cassie Daly, as well as several others who are in the anthology as well.
Yay!
My story in it is called Beyond the Triangle, and it is about the Bridgewater Triangle. Well, inspired by the Bridgewater Triangle.
Excellent.
You can pick it up on Amazon, and I'm excited for it to be out there. You can tell me how much it sucks. I'll be happy to hear it.
Yeah, we are looking forward to the 1 stars for Rich's story.
Me too.
I bet your story's going to be one of the best ones in it.
I hope. I don't know. I'm excited to read Cassie's when I get to that one. I've only read the first couple. I've liked them all.
Oh, she's brilliant. She's really good.
Well, if we get any 1 stars for your story, Rich, we'll have to read them on air.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like Simon Paul Wilson's the best so far, but we'll see how it goes. And you can follow me at Rudy53088 and be sure to give our podcast some reviews, help the algorithm spread the abyss around, and make sure that we consume all. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.
Are you so tired of having your own thoughts? Are you just totally exhausted having your own beliefs on every single thing in the entire world?
Well, don't worry. Here at Your New Opinion, we do the thinking for you.
Join Ryan,
Nick,
and Ben
as the boys debate topics that we probably know nothing about, using every dirty trick they can think of to win.
Everything from if net neutrality is good or bad, to cake versus pie, to who killed JFK.
So if you're looking to never have your own thoughts again, check out Your New Opinion every Friday.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.